March 21st, 2026. I simply had to jump on here because, as the title suggests, a double slit experiment hoax. That's not exactly what I mean. Like, I'm not saying specifically that it's a hoax, um, but what I am saying is that the way that it's interpreted is consistently wrong. And it's one of these misconceptions that I hear cited by anybody who claims that we live in a simulation. I'm like, why do they have to keep running with this? It's been handled. For example, there's a couple others that are like this, like the 100th monkey effect. That's actually based on a myth. Schrodinger's cat was essentially a joke, mocking the idea of these quantum effects when taken to the scale that we could perceive them. And this idea of the double slit is essentially that, and this is how it's interpreted, and I saw Elon Musk referencing it today. The idea is that we create reality through perceiving it, specific with our eyes, because our observation of the wave make it into a particle. And I'm like, what the hell? Why is that still going around? Like, that double slit experiment is not evidence of thoughts creating reality or biocentrism, but it's used by simulation theorists and or simulationists, simulationologists, simulationology. But it's used incorrectly. That's not the way it actually works. And the reason it matters is that it's used as it's a false positive. So people will say, of course, our thoughts create reality. Double slit experiment, quantum science, quantum mechanics. Anytime I hear somebody say quantum in the context of new age thought, I immediately know that they have not looked into it. So the real meaning of the observer in the double slit experiment refers to any sort of measuring device. It refers to the physics of measuring it. It's not talking about consciousness in any way influencing it, or a human observer even being part of the experiment. But it's been malappropriated for a long time, and I don't know if it can be corrected. But I know a lot of people who've used it and still use it. The idea that if you teach a monkey how to wash a potato, other monkeys will suddenly know. I hear a lot of people say the same thing. They'll say, well, it's because when you think of something, you're snatching it out of the ether, and other people have already thought of it, or they'll think of it after you think of it, because 100 monkeys. Like, no, that's fake. That's based on a myth. And the other one about the cat, again, it's a misconception. But I hear these three misconceptions used in the same conversations by people who are trying to suggest that we live in a simulation. And I'm just pointing out that these are wrong answers. And even if we did live in a quote sim, those wouldn't be considered evidences of such. Sort of like the Mandela effect. That's not evidence of anything other than you don't know how your memory works, or how fuck withable it is. I mean, it's pretty bad when you think about how malleable memory is and how easy it is to manipulate it. I've been looking into this concept of reflexivity and mind viruses. What we term here consensus, or rather concerted messaging. But I'm now convinced that mind viruses exist. When I say that people have mind aids, I'm not joking. They don't have a mental immune system because they've taken the passive posture of consuming media. And by not proactively vetting what they're taking in, they are in fact passively accepting memes. And what do these memes do? See, this is the misconception. The misconception is that our subconscious basically is a landfill for everything that we don't consciously process. It just gets dumped in some landfill. Let the id deal with it. And I'm saying, no, it's being processed, organized, systematized, cogitated upon, but not by us, or rather, not by the ego or the center of awareness that we typically operate from, but it's happening completely outside of our conscious awareness. It's in the peripheral being processed. And from that perspective, when you look at memory, like when you watch a movie and you remember the movie, is that stored somewhere different than a lived experience that might be somewhat analogous? Not really. So, what I'm positing here is that we may indeed be accruing memes, ideas, attitudes, beliefs, archetypes without really even noticing that they're getting past our filters. And over time, a lot of these, what are called mind viruses, are simply aggregates of beliefs that, when taken together, form a gestalt, form something, what you can consider a belief system, a prejudice, a bias. But it's all happening without your volition. That's programming. What's up, X322? Thanks for joining. So, what I'm saying here is if you don't control your mind, someone else will. And I think that this subconscious programming is actually dominant. We have our doom scrolling, our Netflix addictions, we have our fixations on whatever platforms that we get our info from. But that's only the tip of the iceberg if you think about the entirety of what we're absorbing without even being aware of it. And I'm suggesting here that it's the unconscious, the passive absorption of these things that leads to what you could consider to be a mind virus. Where, like, okay, so for example, when somebody claims they have a Mandela effect, they're not lying. So, you can't call them liars, but what they are doing is they are mistaking something they imagined for something that was a memory. As I alluded to earlier with the movies, the place where their prompted visualization of the alternate version of some artifact, that is stored where the original memory is stored. And when you bring out the original memory in a context where you're actually being questioned about it, you're asked to doubt it, it actually is interfered with by the new information. And so that's how the new memory is actually formed, where one essentially just swaps it out. And once they settle on the other version, they have a catharsis, a release, like they got the right answer. It's like the cognitive dissonance induced by the discrepancy gets resolved. Sort of like when you lose your keys and then you find them. There's that disharmony and then a release. And I think that when a person settles on this with certainty, it takes away the sense of doubt that the person asking the question instilled. So a lot of it's created by instilling doubt about what is being perceived. And then playing upon that doubt and manipulating the person to adopt a whole new belief. And if it's that simple for someone to misconstrue a false memory as a real event or a real object they actually perceived at some point, and they build on it over time, then why would we think that there aren't more complex and perhaps even more significant forms of beliefs that one could be programmed into accepting, manipulated into adopting? And I think a lot of it works in the form of like clusters, like to accept one particular belief and then you marry it, as in, like, I mean, you get really attached to it. Um, it may have presuppositions you hadn't considered. It has baggage, it has something that wasn't there apparent at first, and then you're stuck with it. But it's like a lot of beliefs get Trojan horsed in, is what I'm saying. Black Hand Side says, anyone else feel like the time is dragging slow like a snail? It feels like a few hours, but I check the time and it's 30 minutes. Some people tell me it's getting faster. Others say it's getting slower. I notice people say it's getting faster as we get near the holidays, which makes sense because the days get shorter. And now we're crawling towards the summer. We're halfway there to the summer solstice. So we just hit the spring equinox yesterday. So you're actually might be sensing that the days are in fact slowing down. We just had the equal day, equal night. Now it's going to get slower, and the days are going to drag on and on and on, and the sun will stand still, which is what solstice means. Sun stands still, or sun still. So yeah, you might be perceiving the actual changing of the season. Commenter says, I hate it when people mess with my mind. People complain about the effects of pollution on their bodies, but messing with people's minds is worse, in my opinion. Yeah, I would suggest, no, I can't recommend it, but I do think there's something to Dianetics. I don't have any real serious opinions about Scientology, but there's a lot about Dianetics that talks about the idea of the mind pollution actually being worse than the physical pollution. That what we're talking about now, the concept of mind viruses, they described L. Ron Hubbard described as what he called engrams, which are just these like embedded um, perceptions or memes that are just passively caught, and these things are over time, they're in a way almost like mind viruses in a sense, but they supposedly um, can have all kinds of effects. A lot of them psychosomatic, but mostly mental. That a lot of it, all mental illnesses or a lot of mental illnesses, they believe, are the result of these types of things that you catch in the environment, you catch from other people. And I don't think that's far off because I noticed, I mean, I've noticed my whole life, but like that, yeah, I can definitely sense people's emotions, especially when they're super negative. I mean, you kind of can, but what I'm saying is like there's almost a sense of energy transference where it rubs off on me. And sometimes I get the sense that people just like being negative because they get some kind of kick out of lowering the tone of everything. But anyway, the Dianetics concept has this thing called a tone scale, where it posits that the optimal state of mind that you're in, you could rate it like, let's say, a 4. And if you're surrounded by a bunch of 2s, we'll say a bunch of people who are suppressed for various reasons, could just be anger, rage, resentment, could be ruminations, drugs. It could be a lot of things, but negative emotions. So you have a bunch of 2s. Well, your 4 is now no longer a 4. It gets dragged down. It gets averaged. So the idea that and this is like the concept of the, um, not necessarily your emotions, but like your soul is actually, we talk about loosh. Well, it kind of suggests that it's a thing that we have to be cognizant of the fact that people and environments affect us and we affect each other. And I do think we affect each other because I think outside of our um, meat suit, I think that the soul does extend out, is in the one with the universe concept, I think is real. And I think that we merge at this higher level, that we are somewhat interconnected in the realm of, I mean, we say spirit, but what's the difference when we say mind, spirit? Is matter a substrate of mind, which I think it is. But anyway, there's some interesting ideas in there if you haven't looked into it. A lot of it's probably antiquated, outdated. In fact, I think a lot of it is a waste. A lot of the time, I don't want to be super critical of it because there's some good parts, but he spends way too much time talking about um, abortions. It's just really weird. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't read it, you might not know. I actually read it at a church. I went to one of their places, and They give you a little quiz after each chapter. I like to learn alternate models of the mind or models in general because I don't fool myself into thinking that we, the public, that modern psychologists today have a full understanding of the mind. I think that it's better understood at certain levels of government, but I think it's understood for the reasons of controlling it and programming it. Like, for example, the Mandela effect, the misinformation effect, the reflexivity, psyops. Yeah, that is all very telling, if you ask me. It just seems like we've been given a faulty model, a limited model, something truncated, something designed to make us compatible with their system. As I said earlier today, or was last night, that they need you to be a Truman to fit in the Truman Show, and Truman is a fool. So we've been given a fool's model. It's not the real one, and I think the real model is one that is inclusive of the quote higher self. And if you balk at the idea of a soul, an agency, that's fine. That's just your opinion. I'm speaking on something that I think is deliberately being not only suppressed and ignored and marginalized, but something that I have a what I think is a working theoretical model to explain. And I have a upcoming manuscript. It's going to probably be completed in the next couple of months. You know what's weird is when I'm not doing anything, as in when I'm writing and reading and doing my normal stuff, when I'm not working for anybody, when I own all my time, I can barely find 30 minutes a day to read because I'm so busy with everything I'm doing. But now that I'm working full time, I have lunch breaks and two 15-minute breaks. And I realized for years, I have not only have I not taken weekends off, but I don't take lunch breaks. I don't take breaks. I don't sit down for an hour. And now I do. And so since I started this job, I've been reading and writing about 5 hours a week is what I'm going to probably average. But anyhow, I'm working on this manuscript about this concept of um, intuition, synchronicity, and the concept of higher self, but demystified. And I think this is all important because I think that if you're going to have a model of the mind, you have to include that perception, human perception, might actually be a factor in this. And this is why the double slit experiment annoys me because I feel like a serious conversation can be had, and we don't need to throw in anything that might be steering it in the direction of another faulty model that serves the system. I think simulationism, not only is it not a theory, but it presents a monotheistic model that isn't really all that different from the existing ones. And I also think that it tends to externalize the locus of control. It creates another God. And I'm looking at this not from a God centric perspective. I don't think the universe is God centric. I think it's human centric. I think universe should be spelled YOUNIVERSE because I think we're integrated with the entirety of this thing. And I think that our agency extends beyond what your physical body does. Like I asked before, are you a leaf blowing in the wind? You know, is that how you perceive yourself? And I would suggest that we are the leaf and the wind, which might not make sense if you're not understanding what I mean by the conscious participation of the universe is actually a feedback loop. And what we get back is partially the result of what we project, but most of it is unconscious. And I don't think it's something that is unique to very, certain individuals. I think it's actually inherent in the human experience, but it goes largely unnoticed, unobserved, unnoticed, undocumented, and unrefined. And I think there's a refinement process that has been cultivated outside the mainstream thought. And when I And I think one of the best examples of this is a probably well, there's a couple schools of thought I could point to that make this case, and that's why I've been referencing Carl Jung quite a bit, because he really developed this concept of synchronicity. And if you really read what he said, he wasn't mystifying it. And this is what I mean by double slit annoys me, is if you mystify these experiences and you say, oh, this is coming from God, this is coming from a higher power or the universe, you're taking your center of control and externalizing it. So you're not attributing it to yourself. In other words, if you don't recognize what you caused, you can't get into a rigorous study of the effects that you have on things. And if you deny that you have any effects, if you claim you're just a leaf blowing in the wind, well, then you're a Truman in the show. You can give up your agency if you want to. But I think that there's this concept of recognizing that the universe is not a physical object separate from us that we're on that will live beyond us. I think it comes into existence through us. And that part of us that is merged with the entirety of the thing also is a point of leverage for our exercise of will, agency. So again, it's not just what our body does, it's what the entirety of our being does, assuming that you're aligned with it in some way. And the alignment process is what I'm talking about. Like we're very well versed in the concept of psychotherapy, the unconscious, hypnosis, um, therapy, reliving things. And to me, it's really focused on the darkness, the past, the suppressed, the shadow stuff. Yeah, I get all that. But I think that the complete model should also include the other aspect of the mind, the part that is in the future, not in the past, and basically a result of what it's processed through you. Because when we're talking about subconscious, you're talking about an aspect of mind that is essentially processed through you. You get it first, then it goes back. It goes into your memory. But the future part of us, or the future that we're actually living as it becomes the present, uh, that part of the mind that is outside the body exists there. So if you look at matter as light condensing or slowing, and we are matter, well, we are not just matter. That part of us that is light coexists where the universe is still just light and information before it coalesces. That's the part where we're joined. And I think that the knowledge about this is well understood. It's all the various mystical and religious traditions talk about it. But what does it mean in practical terms? And that's where my interest lies. Now, why would it be suppressed? Well, for the same reason that literacy has been suppressed, why information is bottlenecked, gate kept. It's about power, weaponized ignorance. You think they want to give you an operating system that will let you see through their system of bullshit, where you're experiencing simulated events to put us through a manufactured, prefabricated history. And the worldview that we have rests upon an edifice of fakery. And we see it. Well, they put us in this collectively for whatever reason. To me, it's supplanted religion. And you could see through it if you had recourse to something other than the screen as an authority over your mind. So the higher authority should be, well, yourself, and not just the program self that obeys the screen, but I'm talking intuition, critical thinking, even rejecting what you're being told because you don't believe it. A lot of people are afraid to go against the mob. I'm not afraid to tell 8 billion people that they're wrong. And I know what I'm doing. I think it's ridiculous when someone, Mandela affected, says, no, I didn't misspell the word. The universe changed. I'm not a solipsist here, but I don't think it's that controversial to say that the multitudes have been essentially brainwashed, programmed. and that very few are outside of the program because you can't just opt out of it. You have to consciously and deliberately unplug from it. You can't just turn off the TV. I'm not programmed anymore. No, I'm sorry. You were born into the program. Stepping out of it does require the delineation between real and fake, not just now, not just discernment for use into the future, but I'm talking reverse engineering the entire world stage, which includes a frame of reference spanning at least 5 or 6 decades to really see the results of history bending. Thank you very much, Thirst for Truth. Appreciate the support. We are pretty much moving forward into an office space in about a week. That's why I took this gig. I've been trying to make money with my art, but you know what? This is crazy. I'm still selling my art on eBay, but here's the issue. It's $1 per sale is generally my business model. $1 to $2 per sale to break even. Because we're talking about a 2.5 inch by 3.5 inch piece of paper with some paint on it inside of a plastic sleeve. And when I started this business, and you can look at my eBay store, and I've been doing this since like 2010. I'm not exaggerating when I say I've moved more than 15,000 of these little baseball card sized paintings. But it used to be the case that I could ship them for 50 cents to $1. But what's happened in recent years is they've started making it more difficult to get things classified as letters. And because I use rigid baseball card sleeves, they're considered parcels. And I do that because I don't trust the post office to not mishandle the art. I don't want negative reviews. So I protect the art. But since they're parcels, even though they're basically weightless, they my prices went up by 500. I mean by $5. So it's like $6 to send a painting. So I tend to lose money, but I do it anyway. I consider it an investment in advertising. If I lose $100 and I put 100 paintings into 100 homes, I consider that advertising. So it's not a problem. It's just that it's not a profitable business. It's an investment. So I'm continuing to do it only for the practice and the advertisement. But since it doesn't pay for anything, I've had to do some other stuff. And hauling junk is one thing, and working the graveyard shift's another. Yeah, I can't afford to do notifications, Diana. Southard, I would like to, but that would require that I would have to, I'd have to jump through some serious hoops. That's one thing. I have to only, I only have so many hours in a day. And if I take 10 minutes out to do something, it will literally subtract 10 minutes from this. So I can't really afford to do the notifications all the time. I haven't been doing archives either. I haven't been doing archives because I don't have the time. Like, I'm the busiest. When I was unemployed, I said I was the busiest unemployed person I've ever met. And it's true. That's all I do. Like, I have a list of things that I'm working on at all times. And the paintings are, if you look on eBay, I think I have 10 right now. I try to sell 75 a week. My idea is eventually the prices will go up. Now, if I had the money for the text alerts, I would do those. But everything costs money, even reaching more people. Everything is really like bots. I plan to use bots. Now, with the proper budget, I might be able to hire an editor. I would have videos. If I could hire someone to do anything, I'd hire somebody to produce videos, clips, and archive my content. I don't trust volunteers. I would never take a volunteer's work for a lot of reasons. I think that the most honest way to deal with things is just simply pay someone to do it. Plain Dakota says, I think if you get the office and invest in a side up, well, we'll see. Oh, this is niche. I mean, it's not like there's a big audience for this, nor are we converting people. Some people want to ask me, how do I wake up my family? How do I wake people up? Like, what are you talking about? If that's if your objective is to wake people up, I have to wonder, what were you doing before this? Like, you have to banish that instinct. Like, you don't need to save people. I mean, if you want to, go ahead, just pair up, get on bicycles, wear a white shirt and a nice tie, and bicycle around asking people if they want to hear about the truth. Like, you think anybody cares? They'll slam the door in your face. I mean, I don't mean to be black pill about it, but I'm just saying, being realistic. Um, I mean, there's better uses for your time. I mean, for example, you could go, help people learn how to read. That's something I think is worthwhile. Volunteer if you want to help people. Like, but you're not helping anybody by telling them that they're wrong about the news media they consume, because they're not serious news consumers. They're not serious thinkers when it comes to this stuff. You think the people who are speculating about whether Jim Carrey's a clone are serious thinkers? And normies believe whatever they're told. They're not even actively processing anything. They're believers. They're basically, we're dealing with a global religious cult, if you haven't noticed. So if you want to make a difference, if you want to incite something that actually makes a difference, your best approach right now, my advice would be, put all your time, attention, and energy into the think tank. Instead of trying to wake up people who don't give a damn, work on this, because this is where people who do give a damn are congregating. And when we create the off-world stage perspective as a platform that people can see and not unsee, then it will grow organically, leaderlessly, headlessly. Like, this is not a cult. It's not about my opinions. People, like, I had someone in the chat last night. They said that they don't agree with me on anything. I'm like, I don't care. It has nothing to do with me. We're talking about hyper reality. We're talking about a philosophical crisis, an endarkenment, the reversal of the Reformation. We're talking about the Black Mirror hoodwink pulled over the collective third eye. We're just describing the facts about how media is a substrate of government, and entertainment is also in service of big government. And we can prove it. And we also know the purpose of it. And none of the conspiracy theorists have figured this out. None of them. They haven't figured out the reason why they're doing psyops every single day. They're doing psyops not to influence your vote, because your votes don't matter. The results are predetermined. They're simulating events because they are maintaining the internal simulation of the world that they've given you, like an operating system. And this internal Truman Show is in a constant state of civil war. They need that sublimated civil war in your head. So it's basically the opposite of inner peace. Like, if you think about religions, for example, and just, I mean, I know maybe it's an exaggeration, but the idea of a religion is, this is very urgent. This is the most important thing in the world, because you have to decide so you don't go to hell, or so you're favored by the god or something. Like, it's a very urgent thing. This is so unbelievable. Hold on, I got a comment here. Yeah, Saturn Day. That's right. Today is Saturn Day. Diana Southard says, we have a Republican Central Committee here in Montana. They merged TPUSA into their format and fundraising years ago, reaching the young Republicans. So wacky. Yeah, it can't be real. TPUSA has to be fake, doesn't it? Like, there's no way it's as big as they say. It's got to be fake grassroots, astroturfed, run by feds. I don't think there's anything organic about it. And look, if you're fooled if you think Charlie Kirk was actually a Christian. That guy's as satanic as you can get. As satanic as Michael Aquinos and General Vallely, who works for TPUSA. Both of them associated with Mind War and Aquinos with Satanism. Like, what's that about? Anyway, to get back on track here, the conspiracy theorists haven't figured out that our history is being manufactured because that's how the governments control people. This is religion. We got the New Testament. We have new eschatologies. And the state of internal war is how they maintain your involvement. If they didn't have psyops, you wouldn't give a damn. You wouldn't be programmable. You'd be in the real world. In order to get you involved in the program, they have to make it compelling, provocative, and it has to, in some way, incite this left versus right division. So they keep the thing going. It's like a ball game. We talk about political footballs. That's kind of what we're talking about. So if you just get rid of the word psyop and hoax and replace it with simulated historic event, because these events stay in our history, but also these events, they're all engineered to have a very specific response on the left and the right, where it's Hegelian dialectics. It's what George Soros is writing about in that social alchemy thing, the comments about moving or changing history. So you have to get people to participate in it. So it's not only a script, like a movie on TV or a movie on the news. It's an alternate reality game that invites public participation because that's what makes it real. Johnny says they ran flags on trucks the Friday after CK's bad theatrical performance. They're mostly Q followers. I'm embarrassed for them. Yeah, I can understand that. I get secondhand embarrassment from Q people. Duet Celeste says religious people can't wrap their minds around the idea that some people only pretend to be religious. He's Christian, he's Muslim, he must be a good person. Yeah, I would say that uh, Charlie Kirk worships mammon. Is that what you call it when they worship greed, power? Because there's no way he's a Christian. There's no way a Christian would involve himself in a ruse lasting from the age of 18 to 31, at the end of which he fakes his own death, or he has his death simulated. He didn't fake his own death. The director of the PSYOP and the special effects crew did. But he knew that from the beginning. He knew they were lying. He knew his marriage was a sham. He had no real kids. He and Erica probably didn't even like each other. He and Candace were also involved in this hoax, long-term scam. TP is fake. He's a front man. Come on, he's 18, a billionaire. It's like, here, let me give you $1 billion. You could start a Republican organization. Obviously, he's as fake as Nick Fuentes. Now, what I'm pointing out here is that there's no way he was a Christian because he was part of a big deception. Think about it. Gematria says fake Q. It's because Tim's a effing retard. What are you talking about? You got Gematria in your handle. You have no business calling anybody mentally deficient. You're a rabbi. What are you doing Gematria for? Why are you using number magic designed to extrapolate divine coincidences in the Torah? Like, if you're not a rabbi, gonna get it, Tim? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're doing with gematria and number magic. Are you some kind of a wizard? Did a gematria calculator collection? Like, let me crunch a bunch of numbers together and make up some connections and pretend like they're significant. You're only just deceiving yourself. Texas sharpshooter fallacy, selectivity bias, confirmation bias. You got mind aids. That calculator was put into your hand by a Fed and you don't even know it. That way, if you notice any patterns, you would mystify it instead of arriving at the truth. This is the only place where we're telling the truth. You know, if you want to go hang out with a bunch of gematria internet prophets, this isn't the place. You come here and talk shit. Go for it. Infinite Plane Saturn Day. You know, we don't censor. This is open topics. So you want to tell me I'm wrong because I don't believe in your number magic prophecies that never come true? By all means, explain yourself. Gematria calculator. My Kabbalistic numerology. Meanwhile, you blame the Jays for everything, but you're using their numerology system to make predictions on the news. How does that work? Yeah, paradoxes got patted down. Yeah, we normally pat people down. We hired the TSA, off-duty TSA agents to pat down new members to the raft. You don't get on the raft if you got a gematria calculator up your keister, like that guy does. We saw it on the body scanner. So remove it. And you don't even have to remove it. You can keep it on, but you're not going to stay buoyant above the sea of irrelevance. You have to start recognizing the disinformation campaigns for what they are. And you are not in possession of some mystical ability to read magical messages into the news with your A is 1, B is 2, and these two words added to the same number so they mean something. That's not how it works. And I say this as someone who studied the stuff. I was introduced to gematria by the Thelemic cult that I joined when I was 19, like right before I joined the army. I had a book called 777 and Other Kabbalistic Writings by Aleister Crowley. But my understanding of it wasn't that you use it to figure out stuff in the news. It was used as part of a collection of tables of correspondences designed to help the person trying to understand symbolism recognize correspondences, syncretism. Gematria 101 says, oh, Cubstar says, Gematria 101 has the same value as, yeah, I think I know what you wrote there. But people get mad. You know, it's like, I don't believe in gematria calculate. Look, let me point this out too. The rabbis with gematria calculators reading the Torah, they're also falling for bullshit. You think that's God? Oh, this word means the same as this word because their numbers are the same. You think that's God? It's the universe showing them a coincidence? No, that's a fake coincidence. They're using Texas sharpshooter fallacy, selectivity bias, confirmation bias. The difference is they're doing it in a religious context where you're supposed to scramble your brains, where objectivity is the enemy, where logic doesn't work for you. We're here using reason and logic. We're engaging in mass media deconstruction. We don't need any of that mystification fog. The fog of Cywar. How many years, how many decades of people wasted saying, yeah, they kill people in these events because these are rituals? Plain Dakota says, I think it's a form of divination. No, it's actually a form of enciphering. Like, I mean, it's like, how do you put it? It's not like it's real coincidences because there are connections you can make, but if you conflate correlation with causation, you're getting it wrong. Like the people, like what's that guy who runs around naked spraying vinegar in the air? Crow 777. So he thinks that he does this little anti-chemtrail dance with his vinegar, and he thinks that it clears the skies. It's like, no, bro, the skies were going to clear anyway. Your little vinegar dance didn't do shit. Put that stuff away. But they think, well, no, I sprayed the vinegar at the airplanes, and then the trails went away. So I made the trails go away. Well, that's called faulty causality. But making fake patterns isn't the same thing as extrapolating significant meaning out of something. Because you could say, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to make these connections, but it's also not hard to show examples where they don't make sense. Like the people who say this event was 66 days, 6 weeks, 6 hours, and 6 months after that event. I'm like, you're not even using real scales of time, like 8 days, 8 months, and 8 hours. It's like, well, what is 8 days? Isn't that a week and a day? I'm not a mystic. I mean, the reason I say Gnostic, and when I say Gnostic, it's lowercase g. I'm not a Christian Gnostic. But when I say Gnostic, it's because I really go off what I know, what I experience, not off what I've been told. And also, I'm not a believer. If I assert something, it's based on experience. It's not based on, I read it in a book. Diana says 666 was Gematria as Apostle Paul will imprison to identify Nero Caesar as Antichrist. No such thing as the Antichrist. Well, yeah, that's another one too. The Antichrist thing, is that a real thing or not? There's no consensus. There's no spokesperson for, like, I don't, sometimes I figure that I ask, why do we even capitalize Christianity? Why not just make it a lowercase c? If there's no official version. And the Catholics that I know consider themselves the real thing, apostolic succession. They preserved everything. But they also believe the stories to be literal too. I notice a lot of Catholics aren't really big on like reading the scripture and debating and getting into all that rhetoric, but they are literalists about what happened according to the stories. They don't really even acknowledge the contradictions between the different gospels. But I'm not here to tell people not to be mystical if that's your thing. But it's like, are you gonna be mystical for some bogus reason? Like your gematria calculator stuff is fake. That's not real mysticism. Your Mandela effect is fake. That's not real. Simulation theory is not a theory. It's fake. So these aren't steps in the way to spiritual enlightenment if that's what you're seeking. And how many years do you want to run around crunching numbers, adding letters, and making fake connections? Like I'm saving you time. Uh, the Mandela effect people have moved on. One of the top Mandela effectees is now a successful real estate magnate. He's going to be the next Donald Trump. I think. That's my prediction. What if he really did have a big check from Ed McMahon and he secretly cashed it? He was hiding it this whole time. But look, again, I'm not a believer, and I also decided that I'm not going to be completely reverent about people's asserted beliefs, unless they're not in the line of fire. Like I don't debate the religious people in my life. I don't I don't question. I don't care. It's none of my business. But on the internet, in the arena of ideas, if we're debating, if we're actually measuring up ideas and concepts to see who's got truth on their side, who can pass the Hitchens razor test, uh, in that realm, yeah, there's no reason to hold back. There are people who believe with their entire hearts that they control the weather by spraying vinegar at the sky and stuff. It's like, I don't know. If I saw a neighbor doing that, I wouldn't go say, "Hey, guy, that's not doing anything." I would just assume he was insane. But on the internet, yeah, that's fair game. We can mock somebody who can't figure out faulty causality. A comes before B, therefore A cause B. Not always true. It's like saying, I'm going to point at the sun and then I'm going to move my hand towards the west and it's going to set over there. It was going to set over there anyway. You see the problem with that proposition? No gematria calculator expert has predicted anything with any accuracy. And 99% of these people still think the news is real. They think people die in psyops. You think Zach Hubbard, who's a major number cruncher, what do you call it? Gematria guy. You think Zach Hubbard knows that news is fake? No, he thinks it's all real. And he uses gematria to prove who did it. He's like, well, they're using Jewish number magic, so it must be the Jews. That's why they gave you these tools. So you would automatically assume, well, if this thing wasn't done by them, why does it have their numbers all over it? Although in his case, he proves that every PSYOP was done by the Jesuits because he finds a way to add something to 201 and then 201 somehow equals Jesuits. Jesus and Lucifer both add to 74. Is that a contradiction? Thirst 13 says, convenient that Ravely retired after a few of his YouTube buds fake died and the final experiment was in the works. Oh, that's right. What's his name? Parhar? With his fake COVID cough the night before he fake died. Oh, gosh, that's funny. The hot yoga. Yeah, he's not dead. That was fake. Rob Skiba, not dead. Fake. I don't know. I think a lot of these anti-vax activists that died were actually in on the ops where they were trying to make conspiracy theorists look bad. Like that. There's a lot of them actually. It's like that's a pattern. Planet Coast says, I don't like Hubbard, but he does call things fake, but he thinks they could be real too. He has no way to take one side or the other. He's wishy-washy. Yeah, that's what I mean. He's wishy-washy. He doesn't have a clue. There's enough information there not to be ambiguous about it. And if he doesn't know if it's real or fake, he's admitting he's confused. Think about it. If I'm like, I don't know if that's real or fake. Am I real or fake? Is anything real or fake? That's somebody who's confused. If he can't come to a conclusion about whether something is real or fake, he's just admitting that he's confused. Why are you going to listen to some confused guy who's obsessed with number magic and Jesuits? That just discredits him. If you can't come to a conclusion, you're discredited. Either you have reasons to believe it or you have reasons why you don't believe it. If you don't have a firm answer, you're not using reason. I don't think that's valid anymore. When people are like, I'm ambiguous. It could be real, it could be fake. I don't know. Let me see your thought process. Show me your work. And you can't prop up this I'm ambiguous as though it's some kind of open-mindedness. Like I'm just open to all possibilities, so I don't know. That's fake open-mindedness. It's just posturing. And it's a way of undermining those of us who have certainty. Like, oh, unlike you guys, I don't have certainty. I don't know. I'm above that. You're above certainty. And I notice that the people who like to hold on to ambiguity like it's a stance get annoyed with our certainty. And I'm like, stay annoyed. Let this repulse you. You know, let it put you off. The fact that we know what we're talking about doesn't bother me at all because the tide's going to turn regardless. And it's not they that we're trying to switch. I don't care about these content creators who are probably feds anyway. A lot of these guys are just plants. They're psyop reinforcers. We don't care about them. It's the self deprogrammed who are going to find us. And many of them will be among their subs. And there'll be some defections. But it only goes one way. The off-world stage perspective is the future for any thinking conspiracy theorist. It really is the future. This isn't going to stop. It's inevitable now. So you can be an early adopter or you can be a laggard. We don't care. But whatever you're standing on right now isn't going to be there when we're done. You're not going to have any guardrails to cling to. I don't see many people pushing false flag theories anymore, except the big channels who don't have a clue. I don't see people saying revelation of the method very much, except for like noobs and big channels who don't have a clue, who are like plants. Like we are having an effect here. It's not that hard to see how you can show. Look, if people are smart enough to understand psyops, they're smart enough to understand context of multiple psyops over time and the script going back and forth. Plain says, gematria has been around for a while. Why did it get dysregulated? I don't know, but I'm expecting that as we get closer to ground to 0 day, and it's coming, a lot of the people who have a lot to lose are going to push back. They're going to get mad. And we want that. We want the friction because we want to show that there's a schism here, that there is actually a gulf. There's an abyss. There's a lot of space between alt media and off-world stage. Like somebody had mentioned that guy, what's his name, predictive history, Professor Yang or whatever, Professor Jang. I'm like, I don't care about this person's opinions because he's a MSM plus world stager, J pill adjacent red pill. There's a lot of great content. I like his presentations. I like his whiteboards. I like a lot of what he does as far as a content creator, but he's obviously a propagandist. He's on Tucker Carlson. Like, there's no reason to fall for these people. I mean, you could be infotained. But what I'm saying is, we want to demonstrate that there's actually a significant distinction between alternative media and what we're proposing. Because what we're exposing here is that alt media is establishment controlled. That guy is establishment controlled just as much as Tucker and Candace. These people are all part of the same system. The alternative media and the mainstream media are controlled by the same central programmer, and they are specifically triangulated against one another. That's the strategy. But the triangulation itself reveals the structure. The fact that they're triangulated, that it's a strategically implemented dynamic, the way that the psyops bounce off the left and the right, they mutually blame each other and they agree on the central premise every single time. Like, I know what we're looking at here. So if you're still in Trutherville, if you're still a propaganda mule, or you're still under the misconception that people are dying in some sacrifices, if you're still caught up in this trad online Christianity versus deep state satanic panic stuff, you're lost. And I'm inviting people to stay lost, because the louder they cry and bitch and moan and protest, the more it draws a distinction between them and us. And that distinction is important because what we're creating here is a marketplace disruption. If you look at this as a marketplace of ideas, mainstream and alt represents a duopoly. They have coerced monopolies out of both sides, and they have not allowed competition. And I'm not talking about financial money. I'm talking or just numbers necessarily. I'm talking about in the realm of ideas. They've excluded a lot of very specific ideas from competing with their ideas, and that's because the ideas that we promulgate here undermine their system and expose the rigged game. So they have a disincentive to even pay attention to us. Their survival depends on us not being noticed by a large number of people, specifically, namely their audiences. And that's who we're going for. We're aiming for their audiences. Not that we want to convert them, but we want to create the friction so that those who've already figured it out will join us. So let them have their overreactions and let them get mad when we call out their cherished orthodoxies as fake, misdirection, lies, time wasting, life wasting lies. You're serving the enemy, you're serving the dark side, you're a foot soldier in Sauron's army. Like you're working for the dark side. You realize that. If you're not off world stage perspective and you're engaged in media, you're engaged in psychological warfare, but you're on the wrong end. Why even be a part of it? Like, what is your objective? And that's a valid question. What is your objective to following the news on the internet and retweeting it and sharing it and talking about it? What's your point? Are you trying to save the world? Are you trying to wake certain people up? Do you think you're doing a good thing? Because good intentions don't really matter. What matters are the effects. This is why I say anti-vaxxers are controlled op. If you're an anti-vaxxer, you might not want to hear this, but you're controlled opposition. I mean, I'm not saying that we're enemies, but strictly speaking, we're ideological opponents. You're the deep state that you're worried about. You are the deep state. You're like one of the hired hands on the Truman Show, maintaining the illusion. So you don't have the moral high ground. You actually lost it. If you're serving the Psy War, you lose the moral high ground. But anyway, we'll get into that soon. Because there's going to be a collision of worldviews, and I have nothing but contempt for the system. I mean, I downplay it. I downplay what the objective is here, but we do have an objective, and they know. The programmers are very well aware of what is growing outside of their boundaries. That's why they come up with guardrails. That's why they need limited hangout ops. That's why they need containment operations. And we've been observing these for some time. If you didn't follow us back when we were watching media manipulation where they were steering traffic away from Mad Mike's rocket, it was pretty intense how real time the influence was. But we know what we're looking at, and we're not like trying to, as I said before, you kind of have to be irreverent here. And if you get mad at us for debunking your crap, think about how the mainstreamers feel when you call their stuff fake. But this is the cutting edge. They think they fringed us. They think they marginalized us, fringed us, demonetized us, disincentivized content creation in this area. No, you just gave us time to gestate outside of your realm, which I think is good. I think maintaining a low profile is one of the best things. I don't know if Bill Gates really did say they could reduce populations with vaccines. I'd have to I have to double check that. I think it's a major misconception. And to the extent that there are anti-vax conspiracy theories, they're all planted there by the government. They want you to be an anti-vaxxer. They want there to be a schism. They need pro and anti. They want you to line up lockstep and march into either the black square or the white square. It's like step right up, get into the Hegelian dialectic so they can direct your history. They need you to participate. They need you to take part in the sublimated civil war. So please choose a side. Either be pro or anti. Either hate Bill Gates or love him, hate Musk or love him, but you must take a stance. One of these two options. I've opted out. I'm like a non. I'm not afraid. I'm not a Bill Gates phobe. I'm not an Elon Musk phobe. I'm not a needle phobe. I'm not a gunophobe. I'm not a CO2 phobe or a cirrus cloud phobe. It's all fear based. Like quite literally, every single psyop out there is basically a little hit of fear, something to be scared of, something to be paranoid of. And they'll say, "Oh, I'm not afraid of it." Well, then why are you talking about it? You are afraid. I mean, just admit it. And the fact of it is, if you're afraid of something that's not real, you know what that makes you? Paranoid. Blue pill, dream world, bliss, ignorance. Red pill, nightmare. So they think, oh, I woke up from the dream. It's a nightmare. This place is horrible. It's like, no, you're still asleep. You're just taking a harder mind control drug because the normie stuff didn't work on you. There's this stray cat that I've been giving handfuls of food to earn its trust. So I was going to do a painting of it. And now when I arrive back from work, I see it hiding in these bushes, and it comes out and it waits for me outside of the truck. And now it talks to me. It basically is trying to boss me, like feed me, feed me. It's like I didn't anticipate that. It was afraid of me for the longest time, but it started to trust me. It's definitely a stray, and it's been mutilating lizards and leaving them around the sidewalk here. I think it just killed one. But anyway, yeah. So my opposition to the anti positions is the exact same opposition that the antis have towards the pros. So they can't treat me like I'm off the rails or I'm out of bounds by opposing them. But yeah, if you're anti fill in the blank, I'm against you for the same reason that you're against normies and their pro positions. It's like a chess game. You have to realize it is a game. When any psyop happens, their thinking is, okay, what are they thinking and how are they going to respond? Well, they're thinking this based on what we know about them and based on this program they've had. These are the options they've been acclimated to, and this is how they're going to respond. They are playing people like pawns, like on a chessboard. It's all a game. And if you think taking the anti position is a winning move, uh, no, you've volunteered to be a disposable pawn on their board. I reference that war games, which is like this is the perfect quote, war games, because we're talking about war games, where it says, "Strange game. The only winning move is not to play." And the second you take an anti position, you're playing the game. There is a third option, and the option is non conscientious objection. I'm not part of the Psy war. And that's why I say I'm against the people that are. Like, I'm not really for Antifa marching the streets, burning stuff. I don't like riots. And I don't like the irrational mobs. But I'm also not a fan of online irrational mob cults that are doing the dirty work for Big Brother, which is essentially crowd control, self policing. Yeah, come police my thoughts some more about your number magic. Like, I'm not a thought cop. I'm like, if you want to believe something crazy, believe it. It's none of my business. I'm here for the non believers. And there's enough of us that we don't need to convert believers. Like, oh, we're short of non believers. We got to go, you know, convert some people. No, we don't need to convert you. So dig in deeper, become more entrenched, locked down, ossify, stay in your mold. Because it's just going to make our job easier. Because our job here is to expose the architecture of the world stage so we can deconstruct. And for us to deconstruct it, it has to be clearly visible. And it's only visible through the people who hold it in their minds and their responses, their predictable responses. That's what gives it away. So we're kind of, in a way, we're declaring war on the mind war itself. Diana says recruiting, right? No, we've been excluding. We've been quarantining, excluding. We've been segregating, separating. This is a separatist movement for the reasons of attaining the appropriate level of ideological purity before we attempt to expand. And that's about where we're almost there. When I get in the office space, I'll be completing the great deconstruction work. That's the point where we start expanding. And I don't care about the people who are mad that they're not allowed in. Like, look, if you're a chemtrail pusher, you're not part of this. There's no way you could be. But just pointing it out, it's like you would have to reform your thinking. And I literally mean that. You have to reform your thinking. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm telling you your process. You need an upgrade on how you process information. So this is a reformation in a lot of ways. Doesn't Morpheus mean God of forms or something? Um, it's all very interesting to me because I talk about how we're not being informed by the media, but we're being conformed to a prefabricated worldview. And and the alternative media anti positions are all conformist positions. It's faux nonconformity. It's faux anti-establishment. And look, that's really where my focus is right now. Like we mock the normies and stuff. It's fun just to look at the program, the happily programmed. But our real targets are the truthers, the red pillars. The J pillars, not so much because they're more mainstream political in their thinking. But we are definitely going for the heart of Trutherville. And this is strategic. There's a very important reason why. It's because that's where you're going to find the people who question the mainstream, even if they got caught up in some dead end. So we're going to bust through Trutherville. We're going to crush a few guardrails and then see what happens from there. At a minimum, you should look at this as an intellectual revolt, a way to really put our forces together and really send a big signal, like a big middle finger, in a way, to the mind control system, because nobody's calling it out directly. No, they're caught up in this triangulation, left versus right, right versus left. They're not looking up. It's kind of conspicuous how very few, actually, how none are looking past the person directly off the side, directly opposite them, that they're manipulated into attacking. None of them look at the source. So what we're doing is novel. I think it's interesting, and it's gonna get very entertaining in my view. It's gonna get fun. It's already fun I think it is, but it's gonna get more entertaining when this thing actually starts to burn. And so what we're aiming for is hot skulls. If you haven't seen it, that's our end result. We want them to decide that, hey, well, we'll see how they react, because this thing has an immune system, and we don't know if they're equipped to handle media deconstructionists. I don't know if they can handle it. I mean, the best they can do is scoff and condescend, but that's only going to last so long because they're doing so from a position and a place of ignorance, and we're fully informed here. Anyway, thanks for your time. We'll likely be live later. I have to run a few errands, and my phone's about to die.